In 2016, California wife and mother Sherry Papini disappeared for 22 days. When she was found, she told authorities a detailed account of being kidnapped and tortured. Years later, in a stunning twist, Papini pled guilty to making false statements about what happened to her, setting off a media firestorm. Now, for the first time, Sherry Papini is telling her side of the story and revealing shocking new information. Sherry Papini, Caught in a Lie, an ID documentary event, Monday, May 26th at 9 on ID. Set your DVR. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 206 of the True Crime All the Time podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, but I'm without my partner in true crime, Mike Gibson. Gibby is still under the weather. He's battling pneumonia. He actually tested positive for COVID, so he's had a rough couple of weeks. I know he's on the mend, but please keep him in your thoughts as he continues to recuperate. Gibby's a tough guy, and he'll be back as soon as humanly possible, knowing him. So last week, I brought in my two daughters to help me out with the Patreon and PayPal names. This week, I have my youngest daughter again, but I also brought my wife because my oldest daughter's back in college. So, Ashlyn, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
My lovely wife, Shannon, are you ready?
I'm ready.
We had Maria.
Hey there, Maria.
Draco.
Hey, Draco.
Sarah Humphreys.
Thank you, Sarah.
Jill Jarvie.
What's up, Jill?
Andrea Falkowski.
Hey there, Falkowski.
Dana Williams.
Thank you, Dana.
Allison Martell jumped out at our highest level.
Hey there, Allison.
Jordan Savage.
Hello, Jordan.
DJ Outlandish.
He must be out there DJing.
Could be a DJ, or DJ just could be the initials of his name. We'll find out either way. Megan McCoy.
Thank you, Megan.
Rebecca Pittman.
Hey, Rebecca.
Carrie Dwyer jumped out at our highest level.
What's up, Carrie?
Ashley Harper.
Thank you, Ashley.
Monica Rosselli.
Hello, Monica.
Tiffany Fox.
Good old Tiffany.
Well, we got to throw a good old in there just for Gibby. Carrie Orberg.
Thank you, Carrie.
Peter Guertin.
I think it's Gurtin.
Gibby probably would have thought that. And if you're anything like Gibby, you're going to be right way more often than I am. But Peter's a good friend of the show. He'll let us know. Will Warren jumped out at our highest level.
Thank you, Will.
Kim.
Just Kim?
Yep, just Kim. Susanna Cornett.
Hey there, Susanna.
Melissa Mack.
Thank you, Melissa.
Anna Melia.
Thank you, Anna.
And last but not least, Jennifer Harden.
Thank you, Jennifer.
And then if we go back into the vault,
Well, how far are we going to go?
I think we should go as far as we can. This week we selected Melissa Lovell. So for, the Patreon support, we appreciate the new support, the continued support. We had some great PayPal donations as well. We had Jennifer Vaughn jump out with a really nice donation.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Catherine Welker jumped out with a generous donation.
What's going on, Catherine?
Amber Routson.
Hey there, Amber.
And Lars Ivar Wilhelmsen.
I'm definitely glad that you had to say that one.
I hope I got it right, but Lars will let me know. I want to thank both of you for joining me. I know Gibby will get a kick out of it. He got a kick out of what we did last week. And I think anything we can do to raise Gibby's spirits, that's a good thing.
We definitely miss seeing him at dinners.
Yeah, it's been weeks since we've seen him, and I know he'll be back soon, and I can't wait.
Get well, Gibby.
So right now on True Crime All the Time Unsolved, we're putting out a best of. It's the Walker family murders. It's an episode that Gibby and I recorded back in 2017. So check that out. Now, for you all on TCAT, we have a Patreon episode that Gibby and I recorded a couple of years ago. So enjoy. All right, man, I'm excited. Let's do this Patreon episode. So sometimes, Gibbs, you pick them, right? The subject for the Patreon onlys.
Yeah.
This time I picked it, and I picked Douglas Feldman for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's an interesting case, which always tops the list, right, of reasons why you would pick a case.
For sure.
Number two, the guy rode a Harley.
There's Harley factor.
There's a Harley factor.
Yeah.
But not just that. He rode the Harley while he committed his murders. He literally committed the murders on a Harley.
Okay.
So it brings like this whole, it wasn't just the fact that he had a Harley.
That's what he did with the Harley.
Yeah.
Not ever going to be a Harley commercial.
No, they're not going to put it in a Harley Davidson commercial. That's for sure. And like some of the cases we've been doing lately, I mean, this is not going to be that much of a background case, right? We don't have a ton of background on this guy, but he was an angry murderer who gunned down people while he was on his Harley. And it was because of that fact, the media dubbed him the Terminator, right? You think back to the Terminator, Arnold Schwarzenegger, that's kind of an iconic part of that movie where he rides the Harley. I think it was a Fat Boy. It kind of spiked, if I remember, it spiked sales in Harley Fat Boys. That's the model that he rode.
Just like that movie that you love with Tom Hanks, goes back to college. He rides the scooter. He's in the scooter gang. And that's when you went out and bought your scooter back in the day. You know what I'm talking about. Him and Julia Roberts.
I remember. I don't know what the movie's called.
It's like his name.
I saw it.
Yeah.
It was good. It was good.
Well, no, you bought a scooter.
I never had a scooter.
Come on. You got the red scooter.
I never bought a scooter, but I saw the movie.
Yeah.
It was okay. It was okay. But you think of Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? He's on this Harley for parts of the movie, and he's shooting, guns from the Harley. It's a big part of the movie. So that's what earned Douglas Feldman the nickname the Terminator. So Gibbs, I have to say, first off, I'm sickened by what this man did. And
Sure.
people know why when we get into the details. But secondly, I'm sickened by the fact that this man and his actions are associated with the brand of motorcycle that I ride. And like you said, this is not going to be the subject of a Harley ad. This is something that I'm sure they hate.
Oh,
The fact that this is associated with their brand.
they would prefer it be a different brand.
Sure, I don't like it one bit. But as we get into this thing, we'll see that Doug Feldman was, by his account, triggered by a road rage incident. So you've got road rage on the highway, a man on a motorcycle that feels like someone's done him wrong, but he doesn't just take it out on this guy. He starts riding around and targeting others, people that didn't even have anything to do with the incident. And we'll hear from Feldman just a little bit. I don't have a ton of clips for this episode. We'll hear from him a little bit. The lack of remorse from this guy, it will blow you away.
I mean, if I'd saw you on the street, I might have shot you. I might have shot that guy right there. I might have shot this guy right over here. Didn't really give a...
And there you have it.
I think that pretty much sums it up. Obviously, that's later on when he's in prison, but he's being interviewed and he said, you know what? I could have shot anybody. I didn't give a F.
He didn't. Just didn't care.
No. And you'll see he didn't care then, didn't care the whole time he was locked up. He didn't care till the very end. He didn't care at the end.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about Doug Feldman. He was born on June 19th, 1958 in Texas. The story takes place in Dallas, Texas. Like I said, not a whole lot of information on this guy's childhood, except for some statements made by others that his father was emotionally and physically abusive. Feldman's mother would later testify to that in court, but it's probably a big deal. It usually is in these cases where, somebody's neglected, they're abused. You just can't tell me, Gibbs, that there's no connection.
No, it has to be. It's a learned behavior growing up. I mean, you see somebody that you're supposed to love treat you or treat other people around you so bad, verbally abuse you, say the nastiest things and to you or in front of you to like your mom or something? That's terrible.
But Feldman graduated from high school and then he went on to study at SMU, Southern Methodist University.
Yeah. Good big college.
Yeah. I mean, this guy was no dummy. He was intelligent, but he had some brushes with the law. When he was 16, he got busted for credit card fraud and drug charges. In 78, he would have been, Gibbs, about 20, 21 years old.
Yeah.
He was convicted of 1 count of possession of narcotics and 1 count of aggravated robbery. So apparently he went into a pharmacy, hit the clerk on the head, threatened to kill her. Then he grabbed the pharmacist and put a gun to his head. And he ordered this guy to fill a bag with drugs. And he took off with this bag, but it was filled with, some of the drugs that you and I have talked about, Dilaudid, morphine,
Oxy, probably.
Percodan, you name it. But he got caught. He did 8 months, got out early on parole in 1979. I'm not going to harp on it, but I feel like if you pistol whip a woman, you put a gun to the head of a man and rob a pharmacy, seems like more than 8 months, doesn't it to you?
I would think. You know how I feel about that, though.
I mean, there are people that have been busted for a little baggie of pot in their car that I guarantee you have done more than 8 months. I guarantee
For
it.
sure they have.
So he gets out on parole. But what's amazing about Doug Feldman is that he went on to be successful. Living in the Dallas, Texas area, he became a financial analyst in the 1980s for a healthcare management company. This is a job that made him quite a bit of money. I'm not sure how he got that job with the record that he had, but maybe they didn't check into those type of things in the financial world the way they do today.
That's true.
It's very strict today.
Oh, the screenings you got to go through to work for any financial institution, fingerprinting, background check. Yeah.
He made a bunch of money. He got married in 1991, but this is a marriage that's not going to last very long, couple of years, because it's around 93 that things start to fall apart for Doug Feldman. He and his wife divorced, which she would come out later and say was amicable. And she actually had a lot of nice things to say about him.
Well, if you're going to get divorced, that's the best way to do it.
Amicably.
Yeah. That doesn't really happen a lot that way. There's always somebody scoring on one side or the other.
But usually, yeah.
Yeah.
But this kind of starts a spiral for Doug. He later quit his high-paying financial analyst job. And his friends and coworkers would come out later and say, it was around this time that they saw an abrupt change in Doug. So I guess after he quit his job, he took some trips by himself to South America and Europe. Like I said, this guy had money.
He's going to burn through it a little bit.
He's going to burn through some of it. In 95, he returned to Dallas. But again, the people that knew him said it was not the same Doug that they had known. He was distant. He began doing drugs. He didn't work. He made the decision that he was just going to live off the considerable amount of money that he had made over the years.
Sure. He felt he had enough wealth that he could finance the rest of his life off of, it sounds like.
Well, it depends on how long you think the rest of your life is going to be.
Well, that's true, too. I could retire today if I only wanted to live until the weekend.
If you wanted to live through the end of this year.
Yeah.
But I think it is something to talk about, right? Why did he make that decision?
Yeah.
Did he know something was coming down the pike for him?
He might have.
Because I don't know that he made money, but I don't know that he didn't have enough money, I don't believe, to retire and never work a day in his life.
So like you said, he could have known. Clearly something happened that, as his friend says, his whole demeanor, his whole attitude towards everything changed. And it could have been the fact that, I know she said the divorce was friendly, but maybe he was the one that was kind of scorned or taken back by it, and heartbreak, things like that, will definitely change somebody. And maybe that's what did it for him. And, even going away traveling to, like you said, South America and Europe. Just didn't get him back on track.
He was diagnosed with bipolar 2 disorder in 1997.
Okay, that adds to it as well.
It does. Now, after he's convicted, I hate to jump ahead, but it makes sense to do it now. Another doctor would give him a bipolar 1 diagnosis. And I really didn't know the difference, Gibbs, between 1 and 2. I'm not even sure I knew there was a 1 and a 2. I mean, I've heard of people being diagnosed as bipolar, and I think a lot of people are.
Well, I think so. I think we all know somebody or
Sure.
more than a few.
Bipolar 1 seems to be a little more severe
Yeah.
with the symptoms and the experiences. But in reading about it, it doesn't seem to be very different. There's subtle differences, is what it seems, between 1 and 2.
And I think, like all bipolar, I mean, you can control it with the correct medication, but you got to take the medication.
And I think that's something he didn't do. I don't believe that, like other people that we talk about, I don't believe that Doug Feldman took any medication
Yeah.
as prescribed by a doctor. And I'm sure the doctor told him,
Oh,
hey, you'll be much better off if you take X. And I think he chose to ignore that.
well, we all decide to sometimes not take our meds.
Yeah.
You know?
It's choice, right? You don't
Sure.
have to. But the reason I bring it up is, this is going to play into his trial and more so his appeals after his conviction. So really, Gibbs, we jump to the night of August 24th, 1998. 40-year-old Doug Feldman is out riding his vintage Harley Davidson motorcycle. He's on the interstate near Dallas, Texas, and it's just before midnight. 36-year-old Robert Everett from Marshfield, Missouri, was traveling that same road, going in the same direction as Doug Feldman. Now, Everett was a trucker and was driving his 18-wheeler that night when his path crossed that of Doug. According to Feldman, and I'm having trouble saying Feldman without thinking of the Seinfeld episode.
Same thing I was thinking.
Which is one of my favorite episodes of Seinfeld, the Bizarro World episode.
Yeah.
So Feldman was the Bizarro character of Kramer.
Right.
Tall, goofy.
Messed up hair.
Yeah,
Yep.
guy. His last name was Feldman. So every time I say it, that's what I think of. But according to Feldman, he's riding his motorcycle. Everett comes into his lane, cuts him off, and came just inches from hitting him. So that's the account he gives. And he got pissed. Now, I've been watching a lot of road rage videos on YouTube. I think I mentioned it. They fascinate me. People brake checking other people, some people pulling guns and waving them. Well, Doug Feldman had his 9mm handgun on him. He pulls it out while he's going down the freeway, riding this Harley, and he fires off some shots into the trailer, the back part of the rig.
Sure.
I don't even know if a trucker would hear that or not. I don't know.
I don't think they probably would. Pretty loud in the cab.
Yeah, I don't know if maybe they would hear the gunshot if it was close enough,
Yeah.
depending on how loud it was in the cab.
How
But
loud that's Harley too,
yeah, I don't know if they would hear a bullet rip through the trailer. I don't know.
Yeah.
We have a lot of truckers.
They'll let us know.
They'll let us know.
Sounds like an episode of Sons of Anarchy, though.
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. But this is what he did. He fired some shots into the trailer. He was ticked off, but he couldn't leave it at that, right? That was bad. You shouldn't fire a gun into
Anything?
anything, especially when you're traveling at high speed down the road. He reloaded the pistol, which is not something I would want to try to do on a Harley traveling 60, 65, 70 miles per hour. Not to say it can't be done, but I think it's a little dangerous. But then he chases down Everett in his truck, and I think he's boiling at this point, Gibbs. He's seething with anger because he pulled up alongside the truck, but this time he fired a bunch of shots into the cab of the truck. And obviously the cab is where Bob Everett is sitting.
So about a total of a dozen shots that from hitting the back of the truck till he gets up to the cab.
Yeah, it was said that he fired about 12 shots, or at least 12 shots. I'm sure there was some that could have missed, but Bob Everett was hit several times before he managed to finally stop his truck. Doug Feldman stopped and got off his bike just long enough to confirm that Bob Everett was dead. And then he took off. And then later, emergency personnel arrive. They transport Bob to the medical center of Plano, Texas, but he died not that long after, they got him there. Bob Everett was a divorced father of 2 children. So he had a 16-year-old boy. He had a 12-year-old girl. He'd only been working at the trucking company for a few months when he was killed. And when they searched his truck, police found 2 well-worn Bibles. And Bob's family has come out in interviews and said that, he talked about becoming a traveling evangelist.
Gonna be a Billy Graham.
Yeah, this was a very good guy, right? He was divorced, but he was a family guy, took care of his kids, loved his family, was very religious. And it's the road rage aspect. And it's one of the main reasons that I picked this case. I've just lately been fascinated by this road rage. And we'll talk about road rage a lot more at the, towards the end of the episode.
Sure.
There's really no way to know what happened on the highway that night as far as, the truck coming over. But even if it did, Gibbs, right? There's no reason to kill someone.
Never.
Over
just let
a
it go,
slight that you perceive,
Yeah.
being cut off, being whatever you want to call it. Somebody flips you the bird.
You don't need to chase them down.
No.
Just calm yourself down. You're still alive. Nobody got hurt. Might have scared you or pissed you off, but just relax, man. Live for another day, and don't take somebody else's life because you're pissed at them. They got family too.
All right, Gibbs, let's take a quick break to talk about some sponsors. And first up is Care Of. Care Of is a wellness brand that makes it easy to maintain your health goals with a customized vitamin plan that helps you feel your best today and supports you long term. All of Care Of's products are formulated with good-for-you, clean ingredients that are backed by science. They have an in-depth 5-minute online quiz that helps address your specific wellness goals. It allows for a personally tailored approach to your unique health needs. It takes about 30 days for your body to adapt to new nutrients, so now's a great time to update your vitamin and wellness routines to help support your immune system this fall. I use Care Of vitamins every single day. I took the online quiz, it was super easy, and every morning I open up a pack of vitamins that were personally selected for me. So check out Care Of for yourself. Our listeners get a special offer for 50% off your first Care Of order. Go to takecareof.com and enter code TCAT50. That's takecareof.com, promo code TCAT50. And we have to talk about Aurora. I bought my daughter a new Aurora mattress. She loves it. She says she's sleeping better than she ever has. She's actually mad at me that we waited so long to get her a better mattress. Aurora helps you sleep better naturally. Their mattresses feature premium Sri Lankan latex and wrapped coil springs to provide contour and a touch of bounce for supportive sleep throughout the night. Aurora's mattresses promote natural spine alignment so you don't have the sinking or pulling on the natural curve of your back. Your weight is evenly distributed from head to toe. They have a best in the industry 365 night trial. No questions asked. If you don't like it, they'll take it back, even at day 364. Free shipping and returns and a forever warranty. And every time you choose Aurora, know that 10 trees will be planted to restore forests, but they have an exclusive offer for TCAT listeners. You get $350 off plus 100 trees planted with your purchase. So sleep better knowing that you just planted a small forest. Use discount code TCAT at aurorasleep.com. So Doug Feldman has killed one person, Bob Everett, on the highway. It's about 30 to 45 minutes later. He's 11 miles from where that first shooting took place. So now we're into the morning hours of the 25th, right? It was just before midnight when he shot and murdered Bob. Feldman saw 62-year-old Nick Velasquez standing next to his semi at a gas station. So he was a truck driver. He was a driver for Exxon.
Okay.
And he was at the station to fill up its tanks. So he drove the big rig that held
fuel
all the
tanks.
gas. And
Right.
it's the guy that you see at the gas station that has the big hose and he's putting it down into the tanks. He's usually always in the way. I feel bad.
Got his little cones around.
Yeah, he's got his cones, but
Be careful. Got to be safe.
the way that these gas stations are laid out, it's not like they're huge.
Right.
He doesn't have a lot of room to maneuver.
It's just like when the Pepsi or Coke guy or the beer guy brings his big distributor truck in.
Exactly.
They just block it the whole way. But I know they got to do what they got to do. I was a UPS driver. I remember how I had to park.
I'm sure many times not very well.
Had to do what I had to do. Got to get that package to the door, Got to do what you got to do.
I know. You got to get your butt out in those shorts and do what you're paid to do.
Somebody waiting for that Amazon package.
Do they even have Amazon when you were doing UPS?
No, it was QVC. It was a big
Okay.
home shopping network,
I didn't think Amazon, even if it was around, it wouldn't have been big
No.
when you were driving.
Today it's Amazon and people's, Jules vaping stuff and all that kind of stuff. That's what they're so big on with UPS on that stuff, FedEx is the gig, man, because they only handle the light stuff, the letters. Somebody from FedEx would be like, no, we don't. We handle the heavy shit too.
I was going to say.
We always thought FedEx always had the light stuff. We'd always get like the 150 pound,
They'd get the FedEx guy gets out of his truck. He's got like 3 little envelopes.
Yeah. Yeah. Meanwhile, we got like 70 packages from 70 pounds to 150 pounds we got to throw up on a dock because, where we're delivering, nobody touches freight but us,
Was that a big thing back in the day? UPS versus FedEx. You guys would West Side Story Rumble.
We would, man.
And Gibby's like,
that's right.
In his brown short shorts.
That's right.
That's a visual right there.
With my cool socks, spiky hair.
I can see it. I can see it in my mind.
Yeah.
All right. So back to Feldman. He sees Velasquez standing next to his truck. He's still ticked off. And he sees a truck driver in Velasquez. And he pulls into the gas station on his Harley, pulls up pretty close to this guy. He just opens fire.
I want to reference like Steve Martin in The Jerk, when that guy's shooting at Steve Martin thinks he's shooting at all the oil cans at the gas station.
Yeah,
he's trying to shoot
the guy
at.
really hates oil or doesn't like oil.
Yeah, but, can't really do it with this one.
No, it's a bad scene because Feldman shoots Velasquez multiple times in the head.
Guy was just doing his job.
Hey, he's just standing there, probably holding a hose,
I don't understand that.
waiting for the right amount of gas to fill up in the tanks.
Yeah, he just wanted to do his job, get this truck back, and get back to his family.
Yeah, I think what makes it worse is that this guy didn't even have anything to do with the road rage incident.
No,
And I'm not, it was horrible that Feldman killed this other truck driver, but even worse, he just kills some random guy. He wasn't even pissed off at him. He's just in general ticked at truck drivers.
yeah, and this guy's just at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah. So like I mentioned, shot him multiple times in the head. He drives off. Feldman does. Velasquez is rushed to Parkland Memorial Hospital in Dallas, but he died just like Everett not long after arriving at the hospital. Well, Parkland Memorial, that's where they took Kennedy, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where Kennedy died, Parkland Memorial Hospital. And I couldn't find as much background on Velasquez. I do know that he was a family man. He had a daughter, but there just really wasn't much out there on him. Now, the one thing that police are able to get is surveillance video from the gas station. And it showed that the shooter was a white male in his late 30s, early 40s. He had dark, medium-length hair. Guy had a scraggly beard, and they could tell that he was riding a Harley-Davidson motorcycle. But even with that type of information, they couldn't figure out who this guy was. Obviously, they didn't have a plate number.
Right.
They must not have caught that.
I had the right angle to get it.
Yeah, that probably would have, ended it real quick. But the authorities did seem to put both shootings together right away. I mean, literally, they happen 30, 45 minutes apart. They're both truckers. They know it's a guy on a motorcycle. Not too hard, right? To probably figure out that
that they're related.
it's 11 miles away. But eventually they're going to put it together with another shooting that actually occurred a day before the murder of Bob Everett. This was the 23rd of August. Doug Feldman drove by a Volkswagen dealership in Richardson, Texas, and he fired about 9 shots into the dealership. And he did quite a bit of damage. Damaged cars, broke out a bunch, shot out a bunch of the windows in the dealership. Police later learned that Feldman had his car serviced at this VW dealership, but it was about 10 years earlier. And apparently he got into it with them or something. But imagine that 10 years goes by and all of a sudden now you're going to take your frustration that you had 10 years ago,
right,
and shoot up the dealership. And it's why I think this is important to talk about, because Feldman makes it sound like he snapped, right? When he says Bob Everett cut him off on the highway. Well, if that's the case, what's he doing the day before firing a bunch of, pistol rounds into a car dealership? Ballistics from the bullets and casings at the dealership, they later come back and prove that it was the same gun, right? They're easily able to tell the same gun was used in that shooting as well as the 2 murders.
So there's the tie-in.
Yeah, they're able to tie it in pretty easily, but they still have no idea who this man is. And it's on September 5th. Feldman is out driving again, but he's not riding on his Harley this time. He's in his Land Rover. Like I said, this guy had a little bit of cash.
Just a little bit?
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Because it wasn't even a regular Harley. I don't know exactly what type it was, but I think it was it was definitely a vintage. It was an older Harley. It's probably something the guy had restored.
He had the money. He probably made it look good.
But he's out driving in his Land Rover, and apparently he's still very much outraged. He saw a man named Antonio Vega standing outside of a Jack in the Box restaurant. And for some reason, Feldman thought Vega was a trucker. I'm not sure why. He wasn't standing next to a truck.
He just assumed?
He wasn't a trucker. He didn't have a truck.
Yeah. Maybe just the jeans and the boots and the...
I have no
flannel?
idea. He was actually using a payphone outside of this Jack in the Box restaurant.
I look like a trucker today with my jeans and boots and flannel.
Yeah, you were wearing like a snap. You're wearing a flannel that snaps up.
It's a way if I want to take it off fast, I can.
That
If I gotta
is,
take care of business, boom, it's off.
if you need to go Magic Mike in
Yeah, right.
2 seconds, you just
Boom.
rip all the buttons
Rips
off.
right off.
But Feldman sees Vega in this payphone, and he pulls up, rolls down his window, and he just opens fire on this guy. He hits him in the chest, hits him in the leg. I think he hit him 3 different times.
It's just a nightmare, man, for something like that to happen. Randomly, out of the blue, gunfire coming at you.
I think I've talked about it. To me, that is very scary. When you just think about the randomness of things. You didn't do anything wrong. You didn't upset anyone. You didn't do anything that you shouldn't have done. Somebody just targets you because, hey,
They could.
you're at this place at this time.
Yeah. That's
That-
the worst, man.
It's always scary to me. Feldman, he fires a bunch of shots, hits him 3 times, and then he drives off. But luckily, Antonio was rushed to the hospital and he recovered from his injuries. They were not nearly as severe as those sustained by Everett and Velasquez. And the other thing about this shooting is there was a witness at the scene that got Feldman's license plate on his Land Rover and turned it over to police. So this is not a whodunit anymore. Pretty easy once you have somebody's plate to find out who it belongs to, and they do. Comes back as Doug Feldman. They go and arrest him outside of his home, and he's put in jail on a $1 million bond. And then they search his house, and they find a couple of guns, but one in particular is a 9mm semi-automatic handgun that ballistically is going to match
Yeah.
the bullets and the casings and all of the shell casings, all of that stuff. So they know they got him. They also found hundreds of rounds of ammo, and Feldman confesses to the crimes, to the murders. As he's talking to investigators, in his written confession, he wrote, "I exploded in rage and committed the murders outlined above." Pretty open shut, right? It goes to grand jury. They hear the evidence. They indict Doug Feldman for the capital murders of Everett and Velasquez. And the prosecution said that they were going to seek the death penalty. And that's exactly what they do. The trial began in August of 99. And I think the big thing to talk about in the trial, because we're not going to talk about it a lot, is that Feldman confessed to the murders on the stand. So, I mean, that's the reason why it's not going to be a lengthy discussion about the trial.
Right.
In front of the jurors, he said,
I did it.
quote, "I chased Everett down and I shot him to death. I felt like I needed to stop that man. I caught up with him again and I fired directly into the cab."
So he thought he was doing the right thing, right?
He did. And we're going to hear more from him.
Yeah.
He wasn't ashamed of what he did. I don't think he thought that he did anything wrong.
I believe he thought he was doing the right thing in his head.
On the stand, when he talked about shooting Velasquez, he said, "I saw that man standing by the truck. I exploded again in anger. I drove by and shot him. I was just acting out. I felt emotionally impelled and consumed by anger." So this kind of stuck with me
Yeah.
because, number one, you don't hear people use the word impelled a lot.
No.
Most people would say compelled. That's a term that's used much more often.
Broad, yeah.
He used it correctly. And that's the only reason I bring it up is because I do think this guy was
Intelligent.
Like I said, he went to SMU. He had this fancy job.
He had a vocabulary.
He did.
Yeah.
So I've read a number of accounts, Gibbs, about how long it took the jury to decide this case, as low as 20 minutes and as high as 90. But most sources peg it as less than 30.
Yeah.
20, I've seen 24. I've seen it kind of all over the map. Either way, this was not a hard case for the jury to decide, right? It didn't take them long.
It shouldn't have.
No, why would it, right? The guy confessed in writing, and then he backed that confession up on the stand. They found him guilty in less than 30 minutes, like Domino's Pizza back in the old days.
The good old days. 30 minutes or less, or it's free.
30 minutes or less, or you go free.
I still remember the breakfast pizza.
They had a breakfast pizza?
They did. They did it just for, I think, different test regions, and Dayton was one of the test regions. It was great, man, because you'd be out Friday night.
Obviously, you couldn't get it for breakfast. It's not like they started opening it.
No, they did. It was breakfast time. It was breakfast pizza for breakfast.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying you would get it at like 3 after the bar closes.
I don't know if you could get it at that time, but I just know that you could order it in the morning, and they would deliver, and it was pizza with eggs and Canadian bacon and, well, whatever toppings you want on it.
Yeah.
But it was kind of like a quiche pizza thing. It was good, man.
That does sound good.
Especially when you were a little hungover from the night before and you just wanted something to eat.
Well, you were heading down that path, so I just assumed this was a Denny's-like situation where, the bars close at 2, order my pizza, I get it at 2:30.
Yeah,
I'm into a breakfast
I don't remember
pizza.
that. Normally, that late at night, I was either at Taco Bell or Denny's or, just laying my head
Passed
down
out.
somewhere. Yeah. Just
Passed out if you couldn't
making
make
sure
it.
I was, on my side or belly down,
Yeah. Wow, breakfast pizza. I know a lot of the places have like dessert pizza, and those are good.
Yeah,
I've
those
had
are
some of
good.
those,
Yeah.
apple and cherry.
But no, this is
breakfast pizza sounds interesting.
Yeah, they tried it a little bit.
Obviously, it didn't work because
it was like
they don't still do it.
86, somewhere around there. Yeah.
Domino's used to be. I don't know how big Domino's is today, mean, they're still big. They have stores everywhere.
Oh, I think they're probably one of the biggest.
But I felt like they used to be bigger and much better.
Well, they didn't have Papa John's and
Yeah,
Pizza
maybe,
Hut
and
on
maybe
their
that's
heels.
why there wasn't as many things to choose from.
Yeah.
Like when I was a kid, you get Domino's. Hey, that's good pizza.
Best thing I have at Pizza Hut is Pepsi Bottom, and that just jolted them up the charts, with distributors.
I really don't eat either one of those. I'm into the
Local?
the more of the local
I am
pizza.
Yeah.
I just find it-
We got our favorites.
We do. I just find it to be better. All right. So the part of the trial where they determine guilt, innocence, whatever, that's done. But then you get to the punishment phase, right? The next phase of the trial. The prosecution was not allowed to introduce evidence of Feldman's past behavior during that first phase, right? They couldn't talk about all of the things that he had done in his past, some of which we've mentioned, but they could do that during the punishment phase. Because again, they're seeking the death penalty.
It's all about character.
Yeah. They're going to pull out every skeleton. They're going to look under every rug. They want the jury to know about everything you've ever done. So they told the jurors about Feldman's past brushes with the law that we've talked about, right? The pharmacy, the drugs. He was arrested a couple of times, served some time. But they also brought forward a slew of witnesses. I'm talking about a bunch of witnesses. I'm going to touch on a few of them. One man testified about a road rage incident that he had with Feldman, where apparently Doug got out of his car and he smashed this other guy's car, the witness's car, with a hammer, with a ball peen hammer, smashed out the window. I mean, he just went to town.
Yeah.
And I think this guy had like either a 80s Trans Am. I don't remember what it was, but I think it was a pretty cool car. But he didn't stop there. After he got done beating the shit out of this guy's car, he opened the door and took the hammer to the guy who was sitting in the driver's seat, and he beat him pretty badly. But what I found amazing, Gibbs, is that even though he did it, they know who it was. He never was arrested. He never served any jail time.
Okay.
He paid this guy some money.
Because he had enough of it. He could.
He did.
Yeah. I'll take care of all your car, your facial reconstruction, and here's a little extra.
So they settled it out of court, if you want to say that.
Yeah.
And I get that, like if you have an accident or if you do some damage to somebody's property, I don't know how you settle out of court if you've beat the living, out of a guy with a ball peen hammer.
I guess you have a good attorney.
Yeah. I just don't know how that happens, but it did. Then there was a woman that testified that Feldman got upset with her. She was working at a fast food restaurant. Must have been one of those drive-ins, where they bring the food out to you.
Well, like on the roller skates?
I don't know if it was a roller skate, but yeah,
Okay.
something like that.
Gotcha.
Like what do they have today where they still do that?
Oh,
What's that place called
yeah.
that I don't eat at, so I can't think of the name.
They have
of it.
everything underneath the sun.
They do, man. They got hot dogs and
And they always show the videos with the two guys in the car drinking slushies or ice cream drinks or something.
yeah. What's the name of it? I can't think of it.
Starts with an S, man. That's what I know. Sonic
Yeah, Sonic.
Drive.
I'm glad you thought of it, man, because I was
Just
drawing
took
a
me a
blank.
while.
I think it was something like that, right? You pull up, you order through
Little speaker.
your own private little speaker
Yeah.
for that time period. A car hop, like back in the 50s and 60s.
Well, now you're going back to the original McDonald's.
Yeah,
day.
the original McDonald's was that way.
Yeah.
But I don't know if this woman had on roller skates or not. But either way, Doug Feldman got upset with this girl and he ran over her with his car.
Okay.
It said she was thrown about 20 feet. He hit her so hard.
Definitely have some anger issues.
I mean, a bunch of her teeth were knocked out. It was pretty vicious. Then you had Antonio Vega. This was the guy that was shot but didn't die. He took the stand, testified about what he went through that day when Feldman shot him. I would think, again, all of this testimony would be pretty powerful to a jury, especially Vega. because he was a shooting victim of Feldman, and it was more recent than some of the others.
Right.
And then the prosecution called Feldman's ex-girlfriend to the stand. They never married, but I guess they lived together for quite a long time, 6-7 years, before he married his wife in 91. But after they broke up, they didn't talk. It wasn't until he got arrested that he reestablished contact with this woman, started corresponding. He wrote her letters.
Many letters.
81 letters.
It's a lot of letters, man.
It is. But, when you're in jail, what else you have to do?
That's true. Just going to sit there and write all day, every day.
You can't make unlimited phone calls, I think, in most places, right?
I could write a letter every day.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's only 81 days.
Yeah, I can do that.
I mean, you'd have to wait a couple days for your cellie to proof it, but before you send it,
Well, that's true.
you wouldn't want to send it.
Without it being proofed.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And if you get lucky, you get a cellie that's really educated.
Oh, yeah. They can give me some different words to use instead.
Exactly. They could
Yeah.
be like your own personal thesaurus.
Yeah.
But he did. He wrote her a lot of letters. She turned all of these over to police because inside these letters, Gibbs, it was some wacky stuff.
At least she kept them, just didn't read them or toss them away.
Yeah, she was very smart about that. In some of the letters, he wrote that he enjoyed killing Everett and Velasquez. But not only that, he wished he could have killed many more people.
Well, those are perfect letters to read at this.
Yeah. I mean, they're bringing them out to the jury. They're going to read them. Some of the letters talked about his fantasies of shooting police officers. I guess he had another fantasy where he wanted to walk through stores, different types of stores, department stores, and he wanted to shoot all of the people at the store who had ticked him off over the years.
Scary.
Well, it's scary, but I think it also shows that this guy had a hard time getting along with people
And letting go of things.
and letting go of things. Too, yeah, I think you're right, because he had a big enemies list because he was confrontational, I imagine, with a lot of people. But he also seemed to really hold on to those grudges or those what he perceived as injustices. I mean, think about the VW dealership. That was 10 years. Some of these stores that he's talking about probably went back 10, 15, 20 years. And in his head, he can remember, Joe Smith over at the shoe store. I tried to go in there and buy a pair of shoes, and he said they didn't have them in stock. And then we got in a big fight.
Now I'm going to come back and shoot him.
That's a guy I want to go in and shoot. In one of the letters, and I think this was the letter that the prosecution ended on, Feldman wrote to this woman and he talked about shooting people and he compared it to killing animals. And he said that they should be viewed the same way legally. There's no difference in Feldman's mind between shooting human beings and hunting an animal. Now, I will say there are a lot of people out there that don't like hunting,
Right.
and would say the same thing. But they would say they should be both viewed as illegal. Not too many people are out there saying they should both be viewed the same, but legally. Right? It should be legal for me to hunt a human or kill a human the same way that I might kill a
Deer?
Yeah, I don't like killing deer. I mean, I don't hunt, but I was thinking more of like a pest on a ranch or something.
Coyote?
Something that
Jackrabbit?
No, something smaller. Yeah, something that a rancher has to kill because
Groundhog?
It's a danger to either his crops or his livestock or something like that. This guy had some ways of looking at things that I don't think are shared by too many people in the world. Or if they are, they better damn well sure keep it to themselves.
Absolutely, man.
If you feel that way, don't go writing a bunch of letters to people. So a lot of bad things came out about Doug Feldman in this second phase of the trial. Probably not hard to figure out that the judge came out, handed him a sentence of death by lethal injection. Feldman gave some interviews while he was in prison, and I put together some snippets. I wanted everybody to hear a little bit more of his voice and a little bit more on his way of thinking.
You know, I feel like I was exceedingly sparing. Because I had 400 rounds of ammunition. I could have easily done a Benbrook. I could have easily shot 30 or 40 people before they caught me. I don't know, life just seemed unfair, you know. I would see things on the news where people like JFK Jr. just had millions fall into their lap because their great-grandfather was some kind of robber baron. And this guy just has some sort of Cinderella life. And at some very basic level, that really pissed me off. Kind of like, you screw me, I'm going to shoot you for it. That's the frame of mind I was in, which is what happened. Was I justified in doing it? Not legally, but maybe in some other ways. Yeah, I wasn't ready to die, but I was damn sure angry enough to kill somebody else.
So first off, that little laugh, that little giggle, that scares the shit out of me.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Strange brew, man.
But, you know, so let's break that down a little bit. Those are snippets, and I kind of put them all together. So obviously there was questions and there was other things in between them. But 400 rounds of ammunition. He said, I spared a bunch of people. I could have killed 30 or 40. But then he gets way off track. I don't know. He starts talking about JFK Jr.
Yep.
And how money just fell into his lap. And that ticked him off when people were rich, I guess. That he felt didn't earn it or
didn't earn it the way he
deserve
had to earn it.
But that's where I found that part strange, because what'd they do to him, right? I get some of these other things. It doesn't make them right, but I get the fact that he's ticked off about interactions that he had with people that own stores or people he had, you know, traffic altercations with, whatever you want to say. But he's talking about celebrities or, you know, people of note,
right,
that either inherit money, and he's ticked off at them. But it's the laugh, man. The laugh just, it's so out there. But he is very articulate, you know, when he speaks. But at the end there, he knows he was not legally justified to murder these people. He knows that. He says it. But he says that he was maybe justified in other ways, but he doesn't elaborate. I just think this guy's way of thinking was extremely messed up. I mean, obviously it was, but
he was out there, way out there.
Don't let allergy season slow you down. Get common allergy meds for as little as $15 with GoodRx. So you and your family, pets included, can stop allergy symptoms before they start. GoodRx is free and easy to use. Just search for your prescription on the website or the app, compare prices, and get a free coupon to show your pharmacist. Save at over 70,000 local pharmacies nationwide, including Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Publix, Kroger, and many more. Check GoodRx before every trip to the pharmacy to save up to 80% on both brand and generic medications. And did you know GoodRx rewards you for saving money too? Join GoodRx Rewards today and earn points every time you use a coupon. Remember, GoodRx is not insurance, but works whether you have insurance or not. And it could be your insurance copay price. I've been using GoodRx for years, and I can't tell you how many times I have saved money even with my insurance. Stop allergies before they start and save big on allergy medications this season with GoodRx. Go to goodrx.com/TCAT. That's goodrx.com/TCATT. You know, once the temps start rising, I realized I was back in the same worn out rotation. Same tank, same shorts, same everything. So I gave my daily uniform an upgrade with Quince. Their pieces are easy, elevated, and somehow make me feel more put together without even trying. Like their 100% European linen shorts and dresses from $30. Luxe swimwear, Italian leather platform sandals, and so much more. The best part, everything with Quince is priced 50 to 80% less than what you'd find at similar brands. By working directly with top artisans and cutting out the middleman, Quince gives you luxury without the markup. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and premium fabrics and finishes. I'm getting ready to stock up on shorts for summer from Quince, and I know they're going to be amazing because everything I've ordered has been of the highest quality, and the prices are amazing. Treat your closet to a little summer glow up with Quince. Go to quince.com/TCAT for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/TCATT to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/TCAT. So you had a bunch of appeals, right? Like all individuals do that are sentenced to death. And I read through a bunch of these. They're very boring, by the way. When you read through people's appeals.
Yeah.
They're very boring, but sometimes there's some really good information. You know, his counsel based their appeals on a number of issues. They tried a number of different avenues. One that I found kind of interesting was around this woman who was stricken from the jury during the jury selection process. So all potential jurors filled out a questionnaire, right, as part of the pool. And one of the questions on there was whether they could impose the death penalty in accordance with Texas law. And this woman answered yes on the questionnaire. So she was selected. During the questioning part where, you know, the prosecution and the defense get to ask questions of potential jurors, the prosecution asked her, do you feel like you're the type of individual that could be involved with a situation, knowing what our position is, and participate and be responsible ultimately for the execution of another human being? So essentially they're just asking her, can she give somebody the death penalty if she's convinced that they're guilty? She answered yes. And she added, if that's what is proven to me. But they must have questioned this woman for quite a while because they keep coming back around to this death penalty question. And at one point she said that she really hadn't thought about it much when she filled out the questionnaire, but she had thought about it a lot since she filled it out, about how it might affect her afterwards, emotionally, psychologically. She was worried that she would have bad dreams. And when the prosecution asked her again after that if she thought she could vote to put someone to death, she said, no, I don't think I could. I don't think I could. And the prosecution struck her as a juror, which they have the right to do.
Sure.
And apparently the defense didn't challenge, right? Which they have the right to do. They let it go. They let her be.
They decide to take someone else from the pool.
Yeah, they let her be stricken. They only get so many challenges, right?
That would be tough. I mean, and I don't mean for me, but I think for some people it would be a difficult decision that you make that call. You have your decision was put somebody to death. You have to live with that decision the rest of your life. So, I mean, if you have any doubt, it could come back and haunt you because if it wasn't for you, they would still be alive.
Yeah, I think you're part of a group that sentenced someone to death. It's a pretty big burden if you think about it.
I think it's a huge burden.
That is placed on jurors in a big death penalty case like that. You're asking a lot from a private citizen.
Sure.
I mean, obviously that's the way our system is set up, but You're asking a lot for them to listen for how many days, weigh all this evidence, and not just find somebody guilty, but then have to be part of the group that makes the decision, does this person live or does this person die?
Yeah.
I found that part very interesting. They brought it up on appeal. It didn't go anywhere. I mean, the court said, no, nothing was wrong. Nobody did anything wrong. I mean, this lady just wasn't sure at the end of the day whether or not she could perform the duty being asked of her.
Yeah, and live with it.
And live with it. Because that's really what it is, right? You're being asked, if you're convinced that this person is guilty and you're convinced that the state has done everything that they needed to do, can you put this person to death?
Yep.
And she said, you know what?
Couldn't live with it.
I don't know if I can. And I don't blame her.
Well, I think it'd be tough for a lot of people.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people are against the death penalty, and I'm totally cool with that. It's fine. Everybody's got their own opinion. I think even if you're a person that is in favor of the death penalty,
Yeah.
that's not going to be an easy thing to do.
No, I don't think unless it's if it's a slam dunk,
Which this one was. It really
but
is.
Still, you are making this final decision on what happens with someone's life.
Yeah. Some of his other appeals centered around his mental state. We talked about it very early on.
Sure.
He was diagnosed as being bipolar and on a couple of different occasions. His defense in some of these appeals argued that he was mentally ill, and the fact that he should have been brought up at trial. And in fact, his defense at the time, they had the psychiatric examinations that said he was bipolar, but they didn't introduce it at trial. And the thought is that the reason they didn't is because it would have opened up some different avenues for cross-examination. It would have been more damaging to him than helpful. That's what the thought is.
Yeah.
Of the reason why they didn't bring it up. Now, the Texas Department of Corrections, they did their own evaluation, and they concluded that Feldman had no mental illness. Their document stated no chronic symptoms of psychosis or emotional illness noted, memory intact, no signs of mania, no signs of depression noted, cooperative, pleasant, groomed appropriately, thoughts are goal-oriented. They said insight and abilities for reasoning and judgment are all within normal limits. No diagnosis.
Okay.
So they didn't make any diagnosis because they didn't see anything to
diagnose.
Nothing came out of this appeal either. But I bring it up because, again, I do think it's interesting that you can have multiple individuals, right? Look at someone, talk to someone, evaluate someone from a psychological standpoint, and everyone comes up with something different.
Yeah, I can say you're going to get a different response from everybody.
Now, you can make the case that the Texas Department of Corrections doesn't want him to, have a mental illness and therefore would lean that way. I think a lot of people would probably make that argument. In 2007, Feldman wrote to his mother, and he wrote, quote, "I'm slowly drowning, unrealistically euphoric one moment, and then narcissistically depressed the next. I'm continually being set up. People do not respect the things I say. They laugh at me behind my back. The world seems to be driving me insane just for fun and enjoyment. I'm slowly losing the ability to take care of myself." That does not sound like a man who's doing well mentally. It really doesn't.
No, not at all.
So as we're kind of wrapping up, Gibbs, I wanted to talk about the website Gawker. They did a project, I think it was back in 2013, where they reached out to death row inmates who were awaiting execution, and they wrote a bunch of letters to all of these people, and one of those was Doug Feldman. And I'm sure the letters were pretty standard. They wanted to know what daily life was like for a death row inmate.
Okay.
And Feldman wrote back, and they corresponded back and forth. And again, from reading his letters, and they're out there, you can find them, you can tell the guy was fairly intelligent.
Sure.
He talked about the system. He talked about how the appeal process worked. He ended one letter by saying, "I used to be a friendly, hardworking person, but being on death row for 15 years has turned me hateful and bitter." I don't know that this guy was ever really a friendly person. He might have been hardworking. I might give him that.
Right.
But you go back to the testimony of, and we didn't even get into all of it. There was witness after witness who had had some type of interaction with Doug Feldman over the years, and none of it was good.
Always angry and bitter.
Yeah.
Right. So
I don't think death row turned him angry and bitter.
no.
He was definitely that way before. Just like I don't think this one road rage incident with an 18-wheeler caused him to snap.
No.
I don't.
Clearly, he probably needed to seek some professional help early on and probably just chose not to because he probably didn't think he had anything going on that needed help. It was probably everybody else's fault.
Well, I think that there's no doubt. He thought that for sure. But in one of these letters, he does ask for a number of things from Gawker. He said that he wanted a motorcycle magazine subscription. He asked them to send $200 to buy things in prison. He also asked for some LSD.
Some LSD, man. Can you hook me up?
Well, I think he reasoned it by saying that this was something that was good for death row inmates right before they were about to be executed, used for like anxiety, and things like that. But he ended it with saying, I'm also looking for some pretty girls and attractive women to send me some sexy photos.
Send me your sexy photos? That's what he wanted, huh?
Yeah, he said, I only have 6 months left, so there's no time to waste.
Yeah. Get them to me now.
Maybe you can help me out with any or all of the items above. Maybe if you post this info, some inspired reader will come to my rescue. I hope you will help me.
Please post this on Gawker that
I have 6 months to live.
and I need nude pictures
I need
sent to me right
sexy
away.
photos right now, stat.
Yeah. The funny thing, not funny, it is kind of funny, but the bizarre thing is that there is probably somebody that would answer that.
Well, we know.
Some people like dangerous inmates that have something about them, and
Something meaning they're dark, dangerous.
yeah, exactly.
They could kill you at any time.
But they know they won't because they're locked up.
Sure.
And they can taunt them and mess with them and have fun with them, but they never have to worry about them coming after them.
And I think going back, Gibbs, to his comment that 15 years on death row made him bitter, made him angry. First of all, I don't think it did any more than he was before, but he was as evil in prison as he was outside of it. He racked up hundreds of violations.
Well, look, man, if you're on death row and they're giving you some yard time or even just with the guards, with his attitude, he probably was like, what are you going to do? I've already got the death penalty.
You're going to kill me.
What else are you going to do
Right.
to me? You can't. What, are you going to move the date up on me? Okay. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Here we go.
I thought that too. I really don't know how somebody on death row who's pretty segregated is able to rack up hundreds of
Yeah,
violations.
he probably threw his food at the guards and other things.
Yeah, you're right. He could have
and-
done a bunch of stuff.
But,
But I also think they hand out violations for little petty things. I think they take everything very seriously.
well, I think they have to. That's why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they did cut off his media access. He was doing some interviews and they cut that off sometime before his execution because apparently he ripped a phone out of the wall. So after all his appeals were exhausted, Doug Feldman was executed on July 31st, 2013. You and I like to talk about special meals.
We do.
We do a lot. But this one is a little disappointing. Well, it depends on how you look at it. Because by this time, by 2013, Texas had gone to the no special last meal. They had changed their rules. And I assume it's still the same way today, where your last meal is whatever all the rest of the inmates are eating that day. So we're not talking about, a bucket of fried chicken, filet mignon, shrimp. No, you're getting whatever
Was made.
Leroy is getting in the cell next to you.
Okay.
That's what you're getting.
Good.
And if it's shit on a shingle that day, that's what you're getting.
Yeah. But I like shit on a shingle.
I do too.
I don't have a problem with that.
Surprisingly,
Yeah. It sticks to your ribs.
people are like, what is shit on a shingle? No, actually, probably a lot of people know what that is.
Yeah. And it's cheap to make, man. You just got to figure out, do you want it on biscuits or do you want it on toast?
Oh, I go biscuits, man.
That's all it matters.
But if you ask me anything, it's biscuits. I'll take biscuits all day long.
Yeah. You
Whether
biscuit
it's-
eater?
Oh, sausage gravy and
Yeah.
biscuits.
You like your biscuits.
I'm getting hungry, man. We haven't eaten dinner. The other thing that you and I like to talk about are last words. Because I think last words are important. I personally think they tell you a lot about a person. This is the last thing that you're ever going to say.
Yeah. You know,
You can either express some remorse to the family about what you did,
yeah.
or you can be a total jackass.
Or you could just not say anything at all.
Sure.
But
You can
that's
just be
never-
silent.
Yeah, I would just say to the family, I'm sorry for my actions. And, you know, I know it's not going to,
How do you know what you would say
I think I would.
if you were about ready to be put to
I
death?
think I'd want to let them know that
You haven't walked in those shoes.
my
man.
actions I'm sorry for. And I would tell the people I love that I love them. And, you know,
So you're saying what you think what you would like to think you would say.
well, I think I know what I think.
But you might be very old and bitter and just go double bird
Yeah.
at that point. I don't know.
No, I'm not a bitter guy, man. I don't think I am.
I don't think I am. But Feldman's last words, they're different than most that we've talked about.
Sure they are. Big time.
First of all, he says his last words very much like a judge would hand down a sentence. Very authoritative. What he said was, I hereby declare Robert Stephen Everett and Nicholas Vasquez guilty of crimes against me, Douglas Allen Feldman. Either by fact or by proxy, I find them both guilty. I hereby sentence both of them to death, which I carried out in August of 1998. As of that time, the state of Texas has been holding me illegally in confinement and by force for 15 years.
He's like going back to pirate law or something.
Parlay.
Yeah.
Then he said, I hereby protest my pending execution and demand immediate relief. So not only do you just remain silent, you don't give any words that would comfort the victims' families in any way. You choose to essentially blame this on your victims. One, we know Gibbs was a guy just standing next to a truck doing his job that had never had any interaction with Doug Feldman before, had never done anything wrong to him in his
He
life.
just happened to be driving a truck,
Yeah.
which was all it took.
Again, it's his choice. He can say whatever he wants. I just think personally that tells me a lot about who deep down Doug Feldman really was, which is a piece of shit.
Yeah.
So they administered the lethal injection, and it was said that Feldman was nervous. He was twitchy. I don't know how you couldn't be a little nervous. You're about ready to die.
Exactly.
I think everybody would be nervous. Apparently he made a couple of faces, almost like grimaces.
Yeah.
And then he started snoring. And it was about 13, 14 minutes later that they pronounced him dead. So ending this episode, I wanted to talk a little bit about road rage, right? It's one of the reasons why I picked this case. I've been watching these YouTube videos. So I found some articles about road rage and its rise in recent years. Because I think it's on the rise. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
No, it's definitely on the rise.
Now, there wasn't YouTube when you and I first started driving. There wasn't a lot of cameras to document. So that's part of it. But I don't remember driving on the highway 25 years ago and seeing the same things that I see today. I just don't remember it. Maybe I'm wrong.
It's definitely changed over the years.
There are some experts that have given some reasons for it. Number one is there's just a whole bunch more cars on the road.
Yeah. More populated.
Yep, more populated, more cars. And it's not like we're building new roads at a rate that would keep up with the increase in population.
Sure.
I mean, you and I are driving on pretty much the same roads that we've driven on always. Not to say that there's not new roads built. It's just there's no way it's to the same extent as the increase in population. And that's not just a U.S. problem, right? It exists all over the world.
It's everywhere.
The second thing they talk about is time, right? Everybody's in hurry up mode. All of us have to be somewhere and we need to be there right now. There's no leisurely drives hardly anymore.
Unless you're in Denver.
And you're just driving around for the scenery.
I think they're all right because of the, the
marijuana.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Just driving through downtown, just roll your window down and you can just
Get a contact high.
yeah.
But I mean, they do. I mean, everybody's working long hours. Jobs are very stressful. A lot of people have long commutes. You and I know that because we hear from a lot of people that listen to our podcasts on what are very long commutes.
I used to commute an hour a day.
I think all of that adds up to big time stress.
Yeah.
And so when someone cuts us off, it's almost as if, all right, buddy, you think your time is more valuable than mine?
Yeah.
I've got to be somewhere too. And I'm going to get ticked about it.
And it falls into that, right? I mean, cutting you off, or there's somebody's on their iPhone not paying attention and about runs you, swipes you, or side.
You said swipes you.
Side swipes you. I mean, there's just so many different things that happen, and it's a little irritating. But
Sure.
I just think if you're one of the people that get really upset that you want to chase that person down and do bodily harm, I don't know. You might want to see somebody, man.
Yeah, you might. The third thing that I saw was big SUVs.
Yeah.
The explosion in big SUVs. There are some academics that think that makes people feel more invincible.
Sure. Suit of armor.
Yeah, like a suit of armor because they're driving this big ass SUV.
Back when like my grandparents would drive the big
The boats,
the Buick,
Sure.
yeah, Delta 88s or whatever they
the
were.
big
man.
tanks. We used to call them tanks.
I mean, you were thankful. You're like, well, at least if they hit something, they're going to be okay. Just feel bad for whoever they hit.
And I think that the last one I saw was vigilante justice.
Yeah.
A rise in that, or vigilante as you would call
Vigilante.
it. Vigilante justice.
Yes.
There's a psychologist out of the University of Hawaii who has said that retaliation is a learned habit. So we're driving our kids around.
Yep.
We're flipping people off. We're cussing people.
Yeah.
Kind of like we talk about with killers' childhoods.
Exactly.
Hopefully they're not going to kill anybody, but they're going to learn that.
That's how you respond to certain events.
Right. When somebody cuts you off
Yep.
or tries to squeeze in, you go full
Dad did it.
MFer on them.
Mom always did it.
Sure.
So it must be okay. I've always watched Mom do that one thing.
And the sad part is I've done it. I've done it a number of times.
Well, you
and I know
have.
I've done it with my kids in the car.
You've chased people down.
I punched a guy's driver's side window out.
I know.
Shattered it
I know.
because he almost ran over my wife and kids in a Fazoli's parking lot.
Good thing he didn't have a gun.
It's a good thing because I had one.
That's what I'm saying.
It's a good thing he didn't.
I know. That could have been bad for both of
He
you.
wouldn't get out of the car. But I don't know. I think I'm a better person now, Gibbs, at 45
Yeah.
than I was at 30. Not a
Oh.
better, but smarter for sure.
Smarter. Well, you got a lot more to lose too.
Yeah, well, I'm more cautious. And I think you're right. I think it's because I have more to lose, a family. Now, if somebody endangers my family, that's going to piss me off. But
Well, of course. But
if I'm out by myself, I don't get as riled up as I used to.
no.
I really don't. Maybe it's because of the research of the podcast and I just know what people are capable of. And I think I shouldn't mess with people the way that I have in the past.
We've both done enough damage in our early ages,
Yeah.
with messing people up that, we've learned.
I think I just thought it was interesting. Some stuff I wanted to, pass along. Not trying to be Mr. Rogers or do Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, but I think it's stuff that everybody should be aware of for sure.
Yeah. Was that the old count to 10 or something before you?
You talking about Mr. Rogers?
No, just in general. You're supposed to count to 10 before you react, just to give yourself to
Time to
calm
think
down.
about it.
Yeah.
Calm down. Yeah. So in wrapping up, as far as Doug Feldman is concerned, again, I just don't think he snapped that night. I don't think it was one road rage incident that caused. Now, I think it was what caused him to kill that particular person and kill Velasquez that night.
Yeah.
But his life was sliding downhill and had been for a number of years. Everybody that knew him talked about, his behavior was erratic. I think, like we talked about, he had some mental issues that were documented that I don't believe he tried to address. I think people told him, diagnosed him,
Sure.
but I don't think he took the steps he needed to treat them properly. I think you can look directly at the fact that he shot up that VW dealership the day before the murders. A suspect. And I think he was already teetering on the edge. I truly believe whether or not that incident with Everett happens, he was going to blow eventually.
Yeah, so if he wasn't cut off that night, maybe that wouldn't have been the day. But it was just, like you said, it's just a matter of time, a ticking time bomb.
Yeah, I
just
think that's
waiting to go off.
exactly what. I think he was a ticking time bomb. It was just a matter of time. He was going to flip out on someone and kill somebody. Maybe many people. Like he said in that interview, he had no qualms. He could have killed 30 or 40.
No, I think he's the type that once he got started, and clearly, I mean,
he would have kept going anyway, I think.
Yeah.
If they hadn't stopped him.
Yep, exactly.
All right, but that is it for another Patreon-only episode of True Crime All the Time. You got anything else, Gibbs, before we wrap it up?
No, I just appreciate every one of you, and I hope you enjoy it. We love you.
Yep, we do, and we appreciate everything you do. So for Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking.
In the early hours of December 4th, 2024, CEO Brian Thompson stepped out onto the streets of Midtown Manhattan.
This assailant pulls out a weapon and starts firing at him.
We're talking about the CEO of the biggest private health insurance corporation in the world.
And the suspect,
he has been identified as Luigi Nicholas Mangione,
became one of the most divisive figures in modern criminal history.
It was targeted, premeditated, and meant to sow terror.
I'm Jesse Weber, host of Luigi, produced by Law and Crime and Twist. This is more than a true crime investigation. We explore a uniquely American moment that could change the country forever.
He's awoken the people to a true issue.
Finally, maybe this would lead rich and powerful people to acknowledge the barbaric nature of our healthcare system.
Listen to Law and Crime's Luigi exclusively on Wondery Plus. You can join Wondery Plus in the Wondery app, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts.